The gunshot shattered the quiet afternoon. I ran outside to find my 12-year-old daughter bleeding on our lawn, shot twice by our HOA president Karen over a wheelchair ramp. Karen didn't know I'm a Navy SEAL. She just made the biggest mistake of her life. Nobody hurts my daughter. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The sound of the gunshot tore through the quiet Tuesday afternoon like a scream. I was inside our modest 2-story house in the Riverside Meadows HOA community, reviewing mission reports at my desk. The work never truly stopped, even during my leave. 20 years as a Navy SEAL had taught me to recognize danger in milliseconds. That crack of gunfire sent every nerve in my body into combat mode. But this was not a war zone. This was suburban America. This was home. Daddy. The scream that followed the gunshot ripped my heart from my chest. That was Emma. My 12-year-old daughter. My entire world. I moved faster than I had moved in years. Down the stairs, 3 at a time. Through the living room. Out the front door. My tactical instincts took over, scanning for threats, identifying the shooter's position, calculating response options. What I saw on our front lawn made my blood freeze. Emma was on the ground, her wheelchair tipped over beside her. Her small hands clutched her legs. Blood. So much blood spreading across the grass. Her face was twisted in agony, tears streaming down her cheeks as she sobbed. Standing 20 feet away, on the sidewalk, was Karen Whitmore. The HOA president. In her perfectly manicured hand was a small caliber pistol, still pointed in Emma's direction. Her face showed no remorse. Only rage. I warned you. Karen screamed, her voice shrill and venomous. I warned you people about that eyesore of a ramp. This is my neighborhood. My rules. Time seemed to move in slow motion. Every second of my SEAL training focused into a single point of crystal clarity. Assess. React. Neutralize. I crossed the distance between us in 4 strides. Before Karen could register my presence, I had disarmed her with a simple twist that made her wrist snap. She screamed. The gun fell to the ground. I kicked it away and had her face down on the pavement in less than 3 seconds, my knee in her back, her arms restrained. Do not move, I said, my voice cold and level. The voice I used on missions. The voice that had interrogated terrorists and commanded men in battle. But Emma. I had to get to Emma. Call 911. I shouted to Mrs. Patterson, our neighbor who had rushed out of her house. Now. She fumbled for her phone, her hands shaking. I kept Karen pinned with one hand and reached for Emma with the other, dragging myself across the grass to my daughter. She was crying so hard she could barely breathe. Baby, I'm here. Daddy's here. Look at me, Emma. Look at me. Her blue eyes found mine. Those eyes that had looked up at me with such trust every single day of her life. Eyes that had never lost their light, even after the car accident 3 years ago that took her ability to walk. Eyes that now held pure terror and pain. It hurts, Daddy, she whimpered. It hurts so bad. I examined her legs. 2 gunshot wounds. One in her left thigh. One in her right calf. The bullets had gone through. Clean shots, if there was such a thing. But Emma's legs had no feeling below the knees from her spinal injury. She was feeling the thigh wound. Every burning, searing moment of it. I know, sweetheart. I know. Help is coming. You're going to be okay. I promise you're going to be okay. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. I kept pressure on the wounds with my hands, my shirt, anything I could use. Karen struggled beneath my grip on her collar. She was blocking the sidewalk. Karen shrieked. That illegal ramp. That wheelchair. This is a respectable neighborhood. We have rules. I looked at her then. Really looked at her. And she must have seen something in my eyes that made her blood run cold, because she stopped struggling. She stopped talking. She just stared at me with sudden, dawning fear. If my daughter dies, I said quietly, there is nowhere on this earth you can hide from me. Do you understand? She understood. The emergency room was chaos. Doctors, nurses, machines beeping, Emma crying. They took her away from me on a gurney, rushing her to surgery. I stood in the hallway, covered in my daughter's blood, shaking with an rage I had never felt before. Not in Fallujah. Not in Afghanistan. Not in any of the hellholes I had fought in. This was different. This was my child. A police officer approached me. Detective Sarah Morrison. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. Mr. Davidson. James Davidson. That's me. I need your statement about what happened. I told her everything. Every detail. The precision and clarity of my training made me the perfect witness. I left nothing out. Karen Whitmore has been arrested, Detective Morrison said. She's claiming self-defense. Says your daughter was trespassing, that she felt threatened. I stared at her. My daughter is 12 years old. She's in a wheelchair. She was on our own property, on the ramp that allows her to access our house. The ramp Karen has been trying to make us remove for 8 months. I know, Detective Morrison said quietly. I've read the HOA complaint files. 17 complaints filed by Mrs. Whitmore against your family. All about that ramp. It's ADA compliant. We got every permit. We followed every regulation. The HOA has architectural guidelines that predate the ADA. Mrs. Whitmore claims the ramp violates the community aesthetic standards. My hands clenched into fists. So she shot my daughter? No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm telling you what her lawyer is going to argue. I want you prepared. Detective Morrison's eyes softened. I have a daughter too. What happened today is unforgivable. I'm going to make sure Karen Whitmore faces justice. Will she go to jail? That depends on a lot of factors. The DA, the judge, her lawyers. She has money and connections. I have something better than money, I said quietly. Detective Morrison looked at me carefully. Mr. Davidson, I read your file. Navy SEAL. Multiple deployments. Decorated veteran. I understand you're angry. But you cannot take matters into your own hands. I haven't done anything illegal. Not yet. Keep it that way. Let the system work. I said nothing. 3 hours later, a surgeon came out to talk to me. Dr. Patel, young but competent looking. Mr. Davidson. Emma is out of surgery. She's stable. Relief flooded through me so intensely I nearly collapsed. Can I see her? Soon. The bullets caused significant soft tissue damage, but they missed the major arteries. She was very lucky. We removed the fragments, cleaned the wounds, and repaired what we could. She'll need physical therapy, but she should recover full function in the injured areas. Full function. She can't walk anyway. Dr. Patel nodded gently. I know about her condition. I mean the muscle function in her thigh. She'll regain normal sensation and strength with rehabilitation. The calf wound is less concerning since she already has limited feeling there. When can she come home? A few days. We want to watch for infection and make sure she's managing the pain. Mr. Davidson, Emma is also very traumatized emotionally. This was a violent attack. She's going to need counseling. She'll get whatever she needs. Good. You can see her in about 20 minutes. She's in recovery room 3. When I finally walked into that recovery room and saw Emma lying in that hospital bed, so small and pale and fragile, something broke inside me. I sat beside her and took her hand. Her eyes fluttered open. "Daddy? I'm here, baby. Am I going to die?" "No. No, sweetheart. You're going to be fine." "Why did she shoot me?" Emma's voice was so small, so confused. "I was just trying to go see the flowers. The ones we planted together." "Why does she hate me so much?" That question destroyed me. Because I had no answer. How do you explain senseless cruelty to a child? How do you make sense of a world where a grown woman shoots a disabled child over a wheelchair ramp? "Some people are broken inside," I said finally. "Some people have so much hate in their hearts that they can't see good anymore. But that's not your fault, Emma. None of this is your fault." "I heard what you said to her," Emma whispered. "I heard you tell her she couldn't hide if I died." "What did you mean?" I looked at my daughter. At her innocent face. At the trust still there, despite everything. "I meant I would make sure she faced justice," I said. "I meant I would protect you. Always. But you can't protect me from everything. You couldn't protect me from her." Those words cut deeper than any knife. Because she was right. For all my training, all my skills, all my missions, I had failed at the most important task of my life. I had failed to keep my daughter safe. "You're right," I said, my voice breaking. "I couldn't stop what happened. But I can make sure nothing like this ever happens again. I promise you that." Emma's eyes closed. The medication was pulling her back to sleep. But she squeezed my hand. "I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby girl. More than anything in this world." I stayed at the hospital for 2 days straight. I slept in the chair beside Emma's bed. I held her when she woke up screaming from nightmares. I helped the nurses change her bandages. I read to her, talked to her, did everything I could to make her feel safe. But inside, I was planning. Detective Morrison came back on the second day. She sat down across from me in the hospital cafeteria. "Karen Whitmore made bail," she said. $200,000. Her husband posted it. My jaw clenched. "She's out. She has to wear an ankle monitor. She's not allowed within 500 feet of you or your daughter. But yes, she's home. That's unacceptable. The judge's hands are tied until the trial. But there's more you should know." Detective Morrison pulled out a folder. "I've been digging into Karen's background. This isn't her first violent incident. That got my attention." "What do you mean?" 15 years ago, in Ohio, she was involved in an altercation with a neighbor. The neighbor had a dog that barked too much. Karen poisoned it. The neighbor couldn't prove it, so no charges were filed. 10 years ago, here in California, she assaulted a teenage boy who rode his skateboard past her house. Broke his arm with a golf club. His parents didn't press charges because Karen threatened to sue them into bankruptcy. I felt my blood pressure rising. So she has a history of violence. Yes. And a history of using her money and lawyers to avoid consequences. The DA is building a strong case, but her defense team is going to argue that she felt threatened, that it was a mistake, that she never meant to hurt Emma. She pointed a gun at a child in a wheelchair and pulled the trigger. Twice. I know. But rich people with good lawyers can twist anything. I want you to be prepared for the possibility that she might get a light sentence. Or community service. Or probation. I looked Detective Morrison in the eyes. That will not happen. Mr. Davidson. I didn't say I would do anything illegal. But that will not happen. Karen Whitmore will face real consequences. I'll make sure of it. Detective Morrison studied me for a long moment. Then she slid the folder across the table. This file has details about Karen's past. Witness statements, incident reports, documentation. It's all public record, but it took me some time to compile it. If someone wanted to build a case showing a pattern of behavior, this would be helpful. Why are you giving me this? Because I'm a cop, and I have to follow the rules. But you're a father. And sometimes the system fails people. I'm not saying you should do anything illegal. I'm just saying knowledge is power. I took the folder. Thank you. I never gave you that, she said, standing up. And if you do something stupid, I will arrest you myself. Understood. After she left, I spent hours reading through every page. Karen Whitmore was a monster. A wealthy, privileged monster who had spent decades terrorizing anyone who didn't meet her standards. The poisoned dog. The assaulted teenager. A housekeeper she'd accused of theft and gotten deported. A contractor she'd sued into bankruptcy over a minor dispute. And now, my Emma. But what struck me most was the pattern. Karen targeted the vulnerable. People who couldn't fight back. People who didn't have the resources or knowledge to stand up to her. She had made a critical mistake this time. She had targeted my daughter. Emma came home on Thursday. I carried her from the car to her bedroom, careful not to jostle her injuries. Her legs were bandaged, and she was on pain medication that made her drowsy. The house felt different now. Violated. The front lawn where she'd been shot was still stained with blood despite my attempts to clean it. The wheelchair ramp that had caused all this trouble sat there, innocent and necessary. I had installed that ramp myself when Emma came home from her own hospital stay 3 years ago. The car accident that paralyzed her had been traumatic enough. Losing her mother in that same accident had nearly destroyed both of us. But we'd survived. We'd adapted. We'd built a new life. And Karen Whitmore couldn't stand it. I'd learned the full story from other neighbors over the past few days. Karen had started her campaign against us the moment we moved in 2 years ago. First it was complaints about our lawn not being the right shade of green. Then it was our mailbox being 2 inches too tall. Then it was our car being parked at the wrong angle in our own driveway. But the ramp. The ramp had become her obsession. At every HOA meeting, she ranted about it. How it ruined the neighborhood aesthetic. How it lowered property values. How it was an eyesore that violated the community standards. Never mind that we had every legal right to have it. Never mind that my daughter needed it to leave her own house. Karen had tried to fine us. She'd tried to sue us. She'd sent us threatening letters. And when all of that failed, when we refused to remove the ramp, she'd escalated. She'd brought a gun. Emma was asleep in her bed when I got the call from Detective Morrison. The DA has formally charged Karen Whitmore with assault with a deadly weapon, attempted murder, and felony child endangerment. The trial is set for 3 months from now. 3 months. It's actually fast for the system. The DA is pushing hard because of the severity of the crime and the public attention. This case is all over the local news. I hadn't watched the news. I'd been too focused on Emma. But now I pulled up my phone and searched. The headlines made my stomach turn. HOA president shoots disabled child over wheelchair ramp, neighborhood dispute turns violent, local girl fighting for life after HOA shooting. The story had gone viral. Video footage from a neighbor's security camera showed everything. Karen approaching with the gun. Emma trying to move away in her wheelchair. Karen firing. Twice. Deliberately. The court of public opinion had already convicted her. But that wasn't enough. I wanted justice. Real justice. The next few days brought an overwhelming response from the community. Not Karen's wealthy HOA friends, but real people. Neighbors I'd never met showed up with meals. Flowers covered our porch. Cards and letters arrived by the hundreds. But one visitor stood out. Marcus Webb. A lawyer. He showed up at my door on Saturday morning, dressed casually, carrying a briefcase. "Mr. Davidson. I'm Marcus Webb. I saw what happened to your daughter on the news. I'd like to offer my services. I can't afford a high-powered lawyer. I'm not asking you to. I'm offering pro bono representation. What happened to Emma is unconscionable. I want to make sure Karen Whitmore never harms anyone again." I studied him carefully. In my line of work, you learn to read people. Marcus Webb seemed genuine. Passionate, even. "Why would you do this for free?" "Because 10 years ago, my sister was harassed by a wealthy neighbor who made her life hell. The neighbor had money and lawyers, and my sister couldn't fight back. She ended up selling her house at a loss and moving away, defeated. I became a lawyer because of that. I take cases like yours because people like Karen Whitmore need to learn they can't abuse others without consequences. Come in." We spent 3 hours going over every detail. Marcus was thorough, brilliant, and strategic. He explained that the criminal case was just the beginning. "We're also going to file a civil lawsuit," Marcus said. "Assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, violation of disability rights. We're going to go after her for everything. Her assets, her property, her position in the HOA. When we're done, Karen Whitmore will never be able to hurt anyone again. I don't care about the money. It's not about money. It's about accountability. It's about sending a message that this behavior has consequences. Emma's medical bills alone will be substantial. Her therapy, both physical and psychological, will continue for years. You deserve compensation for that." He was right. I nodded slowly. "There's one more thing," Marcus said. "I've been researching the Riverside Meadows HOA. Karen has been president for 12 years. In that time, she's filed over 300 complaints against various residents. She's forced out at least 20 families. She's used the HOA as her personal weapon to control everyone around her. We need to expose that pattern." "How?" "By finding her other victims. By showing the court that Emma wasn't an isolated incident. This was the culmination of years of escalating abuse. I can do that." Marcus smiled. "I thought you might say that. Just remember, everything has to be legal. No intimidation, no threats, no breaking any laws." "I understand." After Marcus left, I sat down at my computer and began my own investigation. 20 years as a SEAL had taught me more than combat. I knew surveillance, intelligence gathering, and strategic planning. Karen Whitmore was about to discover that she'd picked the wrong family to terrorize. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a ghost. I interviewed 17 former residents of Riverside Meadows. Each one had a story about Karen. Each story was worse than the last. The elderly couple she'd harassed over their satellite dish until they moved away. The single mother she'd reported to child services because the woman's kids played too loudly. The veteran who'd flown an American flag that was 6 inches larger than HOA regulations allowed. Karen had torn it down herself. I documented everything. Photos, recordings, written statements. I built a case file that would make any prosecutor smile. But I also discovered something else. Something that made me pause. Karen Whitmore's adult son, Daniel, reached out to me through Facebook. He wanted to meet. I was suspicious, but I agreed to coffee at a neutral location. Daniel was 32, nervous, and clearly carrying a weight on his shoulders. We sat down at the cafe, and he spoke quietly. "I saw what my mother did to your daughter. I am so sorry. There's no excuse for it. Why are you here?" "Because you need to understand something about my mother. She's not just mean. She's sick. Genuinely mentally ill. She has narcissistic personality disorder. She's been in and out of therapy for years, but she refuses to stay on medication. She thinks she's fine, that everyone else is the problem. I listened, keeping my expression neutral. I'm not making excuses for her, Daniel continued. What she did is criminal. She should face consequences. But I want you to know that she wasn't always like this. She got worse after my father died 5 years ago. She had a psychotic break. She started obsessing over control, over perfection. The HOA became her entire identity. That doesn't change what she did to Emma. I know. I know. I wanted you to hear it from someone who knows her. She needs help. Real help. And she needs to be held accountable. Those two things can both be true. I looked at this man who was trying to explain the inexplicable. Trying to make sense of a mother who had become a monster. Thank you for telling me, I said finally. But mental illness doesn't excuse violence. Especially against a child. I agree. I'm going to testify against her at the trial. I'm going to tell the court about her history, her refusal to get treatment, everything. She's dangerous, and she needs to be stopped. That conversation stayed with me. It added complexity to a situation I'd wanted to see in black and white. But it didn't change my mission. Emma's nightmares were getting worse. She woke up screaming almost every night. The therapist said she had PTSD. My 12-year-old daughter had post-traumatic stress disorder because a grown woman had shot her over a wheelchair ramp. No amount of explanation or context would make that acceptable. 3 months passed in a blur of preparations. Emma slowly recovered physically, but emotionally she was struggling. She was afraid to leave the house. She flinched at loud noises. She cried at random moments. I worked with her therapist. I held her through the nightmares. I promised her that justice would come. The trial began on a cold Monday morning in November. The courthouse was packed. Media everywhere. Protesters outside holding signs supporting Emma. The story had captured national attention. Karen Whitmore walked into that courtroom like she owned it. Designer suit. Expensive lawyer. Confident expression. She looked at Emma and me with complete disdain. That look fueled my resolve. The prosecution presented their case over 3 days. They showed the security camera footage. Multiple angles. Crystal clear video of Karen approaching with the gun. Emma trying to get away. The shots fired. Emma falling. Me running out. The courtroom gasped. Emma, sitting beside me, gripped my hand so tightly I thought she might break my fingers. Tears streamed down her face as she watched herself get shot on the big screen. I'm here, baby, I whispered. I'm right here. The prosecution called witness after witness. Neighbors who testified about Karen's harassment. The police officers who arrested her. The doctors who treated Emma. Detective Morrison, who laid out Karen's history of violence. And then they called me to the stand. I walked up there calm and controlled. Every eye in the courtroom was on me. Karen's lawyer, a slick man named Richard Brennan, looked ready for battle. The prosecutor, District Attorney Catherine Reeves, questioned me first. We went through everything. How Emma lost her mobility. How we installed the ramp. Karen's harassment campaign. The shooting. Emma's injuries. Her ongoing trauma. Then Richard Brennan stood up for cross-examination. Mr. Davidson, you're a Navy SEAL, correct? Retired. Yes. You've killed people in combat? I've served my country in classified operations. Yes. You're trained in violence. Trained to hurt people. I'm trained to protect people. There's a difference. When you saw my client on your lawn that day, did you hurt her? I disarmed her and restrained her until police arrived. She suffered a sprained wrist from resisting. You broke her wrist. She shot my daughter. I showed considerable restraint. The jury nodded. I could see it in their faces. They were on my side. Brennan tried a different angle. Isn't it true that you've been conducting a harassment campaign against my client? Interviewing her former neighbors? Gathering information to use against her? I've been documenting a pattern of abusive behavior. It's called evidence. You've been intimidating witnesses. I've been talking to people who voluntarily shared their experiences. No one was intimidated. Brennan looked frustrated. He'd expected to shake me. But I'd faced down enemy combatants in hostile territory. A defense lawyer didn't scare me. Then came Karen's turn to testify. She took the stand with practiced composure. Brennan walked her through a sob story about how scared she'd been. How Emma's wheelchair had been blocking the sidewalk. How she'd feared for her safety. I didn't mean to hurt her, Karen said, tears streaming down her face. I just wanted her to move. The gun went off accidentally. D.A. Reeves stood up for cross-examination. And she destroyed Karen. Mrs. Whitmore, you fired 2 shots at Emma Davidson. 2 separate trigger pulls. How was that accidental? I panicked. The security footage shows you approaching Emma deliberately. You walked 15 feet toward her. She was moving away. At what point did you feel threatened by a 12-year-old girl in a wheelchair? She was blocking the public sidewalk. She was on her family's property. On a ramp that exists because she's disabled. A ramp that you've filed 17 complaints about. Isn't that right? That ramp violates HOA guidelines. The Americans with Disabilities Act supersedes HOA guidelines. You know that because your lawyer told you that 8 months ago. Didn't he? Karen hesitated. Yes. So you knew the ramp was legal, but you wanted it gone anyway. You harassed the Davidson family for months. You sent threatening letters. You fined them illegally. And when they still refused to remove the ramp, you brought a gun. Correct? That's not. Answer the question, Mrs. Whitmore. Did you bring a gun to confront a disabled child? Yes, but. No further questions. The prosecution rested. The defense called character witnesses who painted Karen as a pillar of the community. But D.A. Reeves had done her job. The jury had seen the real Karen Whitmore. Closing arguments came on Friday. D.A. Reeves gave a powerful speech about justice, about protecting children, about holding people accountable regardless of their wealth or status. Emma Davidson did nothing wrong, she said, her voice ringing through the courtroom. She existed. She had the audacity to be disabled in a neighborhood where Karen Whitmore wanted perfection. And for that, she was shot. Twice. Deliberately. This isn't a tragedy. It's a crime. And Karen Whitmore must pay for it. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Karen Whitmore's face went pale. Her lawyer immediately started talking about appeals. But the judge wasn't having it. Mrs. Whitmore, Judge Patricia Collins said, her voice stern, you shot a disabled child over a wheelchair ramp. You showed no remorse, no empathy, no humanity. I'm remanding you to custody immediately pending sentencing. The bailiffs handcuffed Karen. As they led her away, she looked at Emma one last time. And Emma, my brave, beautiful daughter, looked right back at her and didn't flinch. It's over, I whispered to Emma. It's really over. She burst into tears. Relief, trauma, exhaustion, everything pouring out at once. I held her while she cried in that courtroom, surrounded by strangers who had become our supporters. 2 weeks later, we returned for sentencing. Judge Collins had reviewed all the evidence, all the testimonies, all the background information. Karen Whitmore, please rise. Karen stood, her orange jumpsuit a stark contrast to her previous designer suits. Prison had aged her. She looked small and defeated. "I've presided over thousands of cases in my career," Judge Collins said. "I've seen violence, cruelty, and evil in many forms. But what you did to Emma Davidson stands out as particularly reprehensible. You targeted a child. A disabled child. Not in a moment of passion, but after months of deliberate harassment. You brought a gun to a confrontation with a 12-year-old girl in a wheelchair." Karen's lawyer tried to interrupt. Judge Collins held up her hand. "I've read the psychological evaluation. I understand you suffer from mental illness. But you've refused treatment. You've refused medication. You've chosen to let your disorder control you, and in doing so, you've hurt countless people. Emma Davidson is just the latest victim in a long line of people you've terrorized." The judge looked down at her notes. "For the charge of attempted murder, I sentence you to 15 years in state prison. For assault with a deadly weapon, 10 years, to run consecutively. For felony child endangerment, 5 years, also consecutive. Total sentence, 30 years. Gasps filled the courtroom. Karen's face crumpled. Her lawyer looked stunned. "Furthermore," Judge Collins continued, "you are ordered to pay full restitution for Emma's medical expenses, therapy costs, and punitive damages in the amount of $5 million. Your HOA presidency is terminated. You are permanently banned from holding any position of authority in any homeowners association. And upon release, if you live that long, you will be prohibited from owning firearms for life." Karen collapsed. The bailiffs caught her. As they carried her out, she was sobbing. I felt Emma's hand slip into mine. I looked down at her. She wasn't crying. She was smiling. "Is it really over, Daddy?" "Yes, baby. It's really over." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. But Marcus Webb handled them beautifully. "Justice has been served today," he told the cameras. "Emma Davidson can begin to heal, knowing that the person who hurt her will never harm anyone again. This case should send a message: wealth and power do not place you above the law. Cruelty has consequences." We went home that night, and for the first time in months, Emma slept through the night without nightmares. The civil lawsuit settled 3 months later. Karen's assets were liquidated. The $5 million went into a trust fund for Emma's care and education. It wouldn't undo what happened, but it would ensure her future was secure. The Riverside Meadows HOA underwent massive reforms. Karen's entire board was voted out. New leadership took over, focused on community instead of control. The ridiculous rules were abolished. People could paint their houses the colors they wanted. Decorations were allowed. Kids could play in yards without being reported. The neighborhood became a real community again. But the most important changes happened in Emma. She started therapy with a specialist in childhood trauma. Slowly, gradually, she began to heal. The nightmares became less frequent. The fear started to fade. Her smile, that beautiful smile I thought I might never see again, came back. She started going outside again. First just to the ramp. Then to the front yard. Then to the park. Each step was a victory. 1 year after the shooting, Emma asked me to take her back to the spot where it happened. "Are you sure?" I asked her. "I need to," she said. "I need to see it and know it doesn't control me anymore." We went outside. Emma rolled her wheelchair to the exact spot. The grass had grown back. No trace of blood remained. It looked like any other patch of lawn. Emma sat there for a long moment. Then she looked up at me. "I'm not scared anymore," she said. "She can't hurt me anymore. And I'm stronger than what she did to me." Pride filled my chest. "You are the strongest person I've ever known. I learned it from you, Daddy. You taught me that we don't let bad people win. We fight back. We survive. We make sure justice happens. You did all that, Emma. You're the hero of this story. She smiled. We both are. That evening, I got a call from Detective Morrison. She'd been following up on something. James, I thought you should know. Karen Whitmore has been in solitary confinement for the past month. She attacked another inmate. She's never getting out early. She'll serve every day of that 30-year sentence. Good. There's more. Daniel Whitmore started a foundation. It's called Emma's Hope. It provides legal assistance to people being harassed by HOAs and other authority figures. He's funding it with his inheritance. He wants to prevent what his mother did from happening to anyone else. That surprised me. That's actually amazing. He's trying to atone for his mother's sins. It won't undo what happened, but it might save some other family from going through what you went through. After hanging up, I told Emma about the foundation. Her eyes lit up. Really? He named it after me. He did. Can we help? Can we be part of it? I looked at my incredible daughter. She'd been shot, traumatized, and nearly killed. And her response was to want to help others. Of course we can, baby. Of course we can. 2 years after the shooting, Emma's Hope Foundation had helped 43 families fight back against abusive HOAs. Marcus Webb ran the legal side. Daniel Whitmore provided funding. Emma and I spoke at events, sharing our story. Emma was 14 now. Thriving. She'd found her purpose in helping others. She did speaking engagements at schools about standing up to bullies, about resilience, about not letting trauma define you. She was extraordinary. One evening, we sat together on the porch, watching the sunset. The ramp that had caused so much pain was just a ramp again. A useful tool that gave Emma independence. Daddy, do you think she ever thinks about what she did? Emma asked. Karen. Yeah. Do you think she has regrets? I considered the question carefully. I don't know. Some people never change. Some people are so locked in their own perspective that they can't see the damage they cause. But what matters is that you've moved forward. You haven't let what she did destroy you. I still have bad days, Emma admitted. Sometimes I wake up and remember the pain. Remember being so scared. That's normal. Healing isn't linear. It's okay to have bad days. But the good days are more now. Way more. She smiled at me. And I'm doing something good with what happened. That makes it mean something, you know. I nodded, feeling the familiar tightness in my chest that came whenever I thought about how close I'd come to losing her. You've turned something terrible into something beautiful. That takes incredible strength. We both did it together. She was right. This had been our journey. Our fight. Our victory. The doorbell rang. I went to answer it and found a young woman standing there, maybe 25 years old, holding a folder. Mr. Davidson. I'm Sarah Chen. I'm a reporter working on a documentary about HOA abuse. I was hoping to interview you and Emma for the project. I'd gotten these requests before. Usually I turned them down. But something about Sarah seemed genuine. What's the angle of your documentary? It's about how power structures in neighborhoods can be weaponized against vulnerable people. Your case is the most extreme example, but there are thousands of families dealing with similar harassment. I want to expose the system that allowed someone like Karen Whitmore to terrorize people for years before finally snapping. Emma had rolled up behind me. I'll do it, she said. If it helps other people understand what can happen, I'll tell our story. I looked at my daughter, so brave and determined. Okay. We'll do it. Over the next 3 months, Sarah Chen interviewed us extensively. She also interviewed other victims of HOA abuse. The elderly couple Karen had driven out. The single mother. The veteran. Dozens of families shared their stories. The documentary, titled Behind the Gates, The Dark Side of HOAs, premiered at a film festival and then was picked up by a major streaming service. It went viral within days. The response was overwhelming. News outlets did follow-up stories. Politicians started talking about HOA reform legislation. The issue that had seemed so isolated suddenly became a national conversation. Emma became the face of the movement. Her story, her recovery, her transformation from victim to advocate, inspired people everywhere. She started getting letters from other kids who'd been bullied or hurt, telling her she gave them hope. One letter in particular stood out. It was from a 15-year-old girl named Maya who lived in Michigan. She wrote, "Dear Emma, I saw your documentary. I'm in a wheelchair too. Cerebral palsy. My neighbors hate us because of the ramp and the van we need. They throw trash on our lawn. They call me names. They make my mom cry. But watching you stand up in court and face the person who hurt you made me realize I don't have to accept this. My mom and I contacted Emma's Hope Foundation. They're helping us fight back. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for showing me I can be brave too. Love, Maya." Emma cried when she read that letter. Good tears. Healing tears. "This is why it matters," she said. "This is why we have to keep telling our story. So kids like Maya know they're not alone. I'm so proud of you," I told her. "Every single day, I'm amazed by who you've become. I had a good teacher." She smiled at me. "You never gave up on getting justice. You showed me that fighting back is worth it." Emma's Hope Foundation expanded rapidly. Daniel Whitmore donated his entire inheritance, over $3 million. Corporate sponsors came on board. We opened offices in 5 states. Marcus Webb hired a team of lawyers who worked on HOA cases pro bono. They challenged illegal fines, discriminatory rules, and abusive board members. They won case after case. The foundation also started a lobbying arm, pushing for legislation to protect homeowners from HOA overreach. Several states passed laws limiting HOA authority and creating oversight mechanisms. Emma became a consultant for the foundation despite being only 14. Her insights about disability discrimination and her ability to connect with victims made her invaluable. She attended board meetings via video call, contributed to strategy sessions, and continued speaking at events. She was making more difference at 14 than most people make in a lifetime. One day, Detective Morrison called me with unexpected news. "James, I thought you'd want to know. Karen Whitmore is dying. Stage 4 cancer. She has maybe 6 months." I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Nothing. "Okay," I said simply. Her lawyer reached out. "She wants to meet with Emma. To apologize." That got my attention. "Absolutely not." I told him the same thing. But I promised I'd pass along the message. "It's Emma's choice." I went to Emma's room. She was doing homework, her desk covered with books and papers. A normal teenage scene. Sometimes I forgot what she'd been through. "Hey, baby. We need to talk about something." She looked up. "What's wrong?" I told her about Karen's request. Emma's expression went through several emotions. Surprise. Anger. Confusion. Then something else. Something thoughtful. "I want to go," she said. "Emma, no. You don't need to put yourself through that." "Yes, I do. Not for her. For me. I need to look at her one more time and show her that I'm okay. That she didn't break me. That I won." I understood that need. The need for closure. For the final word. "I'll go with you," I said. "I know. You always do." The prison visiting room was cold and institutional. Emma and I sat at a table, waiting. Guards stood nearby. Marcus Webb had come too, just in case. Then they brought her in. Karen Whitmore looked nothing like the immaculate, angry woman who'd shot my daughter. Cancer had ravaged her. She was thin, pale, moving slowly. Her orange jumpsuit hung loose on her frame. She sat down across from us. For a long moment, nobody spoke. "Thank you for coming," Karen finally said, her voice weak. "I didn't think you would." Emma stared at her, and I saw my daughter's strength in that gaze. No fear. No hesitation. "I came because I wanted you to see what you didn't destroy," Emma said. "I'm not broken. I'm not scared. I'm living my life, helping people, making a difference. Everything you tried to take from me, I still have." Karen's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry. I know those words mean nothing. I know I can never undo what I did. But I need you to know I'm sorry." "Why did you do it?" Emma asked. The question that had haunted us both. "Why did you hate me so much?" Karen was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice cracked. "I didn't hate you. I hated what you represented. Change. Something I couldn't control. My whole life fell apart when my husband died. The HOA was the only thing I could control. Your ramp, your presence, it reminded me that I wasn't in control of anything. That life happens whether we want it to or not. So you shot me. So I shot you." Karen's tears fell freely now. "There's no excuse. No justification. I was sick, I was angry, I was cruel. And I destroyed a child's life because I couldn't handle my own pain." Emma leaned forward. "You didn't destroy my life. You hurt me. You traumatized me. But you didn't destroy me. I'm stronger now than I was before. I'm helping people now. I have purpose. You gave me that, in a terrible way. You showed me what I'm capable of surviving." "You're remarkable," Karen whispered. "You're everything I should have been and wasn't. I wasted my life on hate and control. You're spending yours on helping others. I don't deserve your forgiveness." "You're right," Emma said simply. "You don't. And I'm not here to give it to you. I'm here to tell you that I'm moving on. I'm living. You're dying here, alone, and that's the consequence of your choices. I wanted you to know that before you go." It was brutal. It was honest. It was exactly what Emma needed to say. Karen nodded slowly. "I understand. Thank you for letting me see you one last time. For letting me see that you're okay." Emma stood up. "Goodbye, Karen. I hope you find peace with what you've done." We left without looking back. In the car, Emma was quiet for a long time. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Lighter," she said finally. "Like I put down something heavy I've been carrying. I don't hate her anymore. I don't feel anything for her. She's just someone who hurt me once, a long time ago. She's not important anymore." That was real healing. That was victory. 3 months later, I got the notification that Karen Whitmore had died in prison. The funeral was small, attended only by Daniel and a few distant relatives. The woman who had terrorized so many people died alone and unmourned. I told Emma. She nodded calmly. "I hope she found peace at the end," Emma said. "Not for her sake. But because holding on to that much hate and anger is exhausting. I hope she let it go before she died." My daughter's capacity for compassion, even towards someone who'd hurt her so badly, never ceased to amaze me. Life continued. Emma started high school. She joined the debate team and immediately became their star member. She made friends. She went to dances. She lived the normal teenage life she deserved. The scars on her legs faded. The emotional scars took longer, but they healed too. She still saw her therapist monthly, but the sessions were more about maintaining wellness than processing trauma. Emma's Hope Foundation continued to grow. We helped hundreds of families. We changed laws. We made a real difference. One evening, 3 years after the shooting, Emma and I sat on the porch again. It had become our spot for important conversations. "Daddy, I've been thinking about something," she said. "What's that?" "I want to be a lawyer. Like Marcus. I want to help people who can't fight for themselves." Pride swelled in my chest. "You'd be an incredible lawyer." "I know it'll be hard. Law school, the bar exam, all of it. But I want to do it. I want to turn what happened to me into a career of helping others." "Then that's what you'll do. And I'll support you every step of the way." She smiled. "I know. You always have." I looked at my daughter, this extraordinary young woman who'd survived the unthinkable and turned her pain into purpose. She'd been shot, traumatized, and nearly destroyed. But she'd come back stronger. She hadn't just survived. She'd thrived. Years passed. Emma graduated high school with honors. She got into Stanford Law School, her first choice. She excelled there, driven by her personal experience and deep desire to help others. During her second year of law school, she came home for Thanksgiving. We sat on the porch again, wrapped in blankets against the November chill. "Do you ever think about her?" Emma asked. We both knew who she meant. "Sometimes," I admitted. "Not often anymore. Usually only when I'm reminded of how close I came to losing you. I think about her sometimes too. Not with anger anymore. More with curiosity. About how someone becomes that broken. What path leads a person to shoot a child? Some questions don't have good answers. Maybe not. But I think understanding is important. That's why I'm specializing in disability rights law. I want to prevent the systemic issues that allowed someone like Karen to have so much power over vulnerable people." I smiled. "You're going to change the world, Emma." "I'm going to try. That's all anyone can do." She was right. And she was already making a difference. During law school internships, she'd worked on 3 cases involving HOA discrimination against disabled residents. She'd won all 3. The girl who'd been shot for using a wheelchair ramp was now the lawyer protecting others' right to accessible housing. One day, Marcus Webb called with big news. The foundation had been instrumental in passing federal legislation requiring HOA oversight and limiting their authority over disability accommodations. It was called the Emma Davidson Act. "They named a law after you," I told Emma when I called to share the news. She was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed, but I could hear tears in her voice. "All because a terrible woman shot me over a ramp. I guess sometimes the worst things lead to the best outcomes." "You led to the best outcome. You took something horrible and turned it into lasting change. We did it together, Daddy. All of us. You, Marcus, Daniel, Detective Morrison, everyone who supported us. That's what this story is really about. It's not about revenge. It's about a community coming together to protect the vulnerable and demand justice." She was wiser than I'd ever been. 10 years after the shooting, Emma was a successful civil rights attorney. She'd argued cases before the Supreme Court. She'd helped thousands of families. The Riverside Meadows HOA had completely transformed. It was now one of the most inclusive communities in the state. The wheelchair ramp that had started everything was still there, weathered but sturdy. It was a reminder of how far we'd come. We still sat on the porch together sometimes, father and daughter, watching the sunset. "Do you ever regret how everything happened?" I asked her once. Emma thought about it carefully. "I regret the pain. I regret the trauma. But I don't regret where it led me. I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to do. I'm helping people. You would have found your way. You've always been extraordinary. So have you. You taught me that justice matters. That standing up for what's right matters. Everything I do comes from lessons you taught me. I felt tears in my eyes. I'm so proud of you. Every single day. I know. I feel it. She squeezed my hand. And I'm grateful. For you, for surviving, for everything we built from the ashes of that terrible day. Karen Whitmore had tried to destroy a child over a wheelchair ramp. Instead, that child had grown into a force for justice that changed the entire country. Sometimes the villains lose. Sometimes the victims win. Sometimes justice prevails. This was one of those times. Emma had transformed suffering into purpose, pain into power, and trauma into triumph. She had won in every way that mattered. The end.